here. So I'm going to share with you today some of the exercises that I've been doing to heal my diastasis recti, which is ab separation from pregnancy. So this is my third postpartum journey. I did not deal with this with the other ones, and so this is new to me. So I started diving in. I started researching ways to heal this because for me, it felt very obvious. It felt very uncomfortable and painful when I started back to workouts. And so I dove in and did some research, and I realized if I don't heal this, I'm going to make it worse in the long run. And so I am not a professional. This is all research I've done myself, all exercises that I have been doing for the past 5 months that has really taken it from painful and hurting to so much better, so much more healed. And I can do almost every single exercise unmodified that I want to. And so I'm going to share with you some today. Okay, so how did I notice that I had this? So when I laid down and was doing some ab exercises, obvious my core was very, very weak when I first got cleared. It was abundantly clear. But as I kept going, I noticed that my core felt like it was getting stronger, but I noticed between my navel and my pubic bone, it just felt weak. I noticed the bump, the linea that's still there. There's a pretty prominent line discoloration that was there, and it felt like it was pulling when I was doing any type of exercise. That's what led me to start doing some research. So the absolute worst thing that you can be doing is full movements where you're going all the way up, all the way down, because typically you're pulling up and that is allowing it to come out of there. And so I was actually starting to make it worse because I was stretching on it. So thinking about keeping those ribs wide, keeping that nice and tight, and it shouldn't bulge when you're sitting up and down. So getting up out of bed, getting up off the floor after these exercises, be very, very mindful of keeping that whole pelvic, whole core area nice and tight and not letting it bulge out as you are sitting up. Now understand that this is for me personally with the ab separation, but this is not just exclusive to those that are postpartum. As women, we often are so guilty of ignoring the whole pelvic girdle. So between our hips, down to the pubic bone, everything in between, there are so many intrinsic muscles in there that we just ignore. We don't intentionally take care of it. And that was me too until I had issues. We don't notice that it's there or know that we need to take care of it until it's a problem, right? And so whether you haven't had a baby yet, whether you're preparing to, whether you are postpartum as well, every single woman will benefit from doing these exercises immensely. So it's not just for the postpartum mamas.
And start by keeping that lower belly as tight as you can and really open up your rib cage. We're just pulling our hips up and pushing back down. Essentially, you are taking your lower back and pushing it flat down into the floor and pulling it back up. Think about those deep inner abdominal muscles doing all of the work. It's a tiny little movement. Now we'll head into our strengthening progression. So again, keeping the lower abdominals tight, the rib cage nice and wide. I'm going to keep one knee bent, one leg straight. It's a lower leg raise, one at a time. My hips are not rocking. They're staying as straight and as still as possible. And I'm doing this because I'm keeping those transverse abdominals, my lower belly, nice and tight. So no rocking, nice and slow. Now from here, you can progress. You can add your arm going in the same direction. This would be step number 2 after the leg by itself. And don't add on more things until you feel strong and stable and ready. This could be 3 or 4 days. This could be a week. But once you feel strong with it, then you add some more in. Now we're doing opposites. This is just activating some of the different core muscles, and so it's giving it a little bit of a different burn. Again, my hips are not rocking. I'm strong and stable in that lower belly. Now here's the final progression. I can get my shoulder up off the ground. Again, making sure that my belly is not coning up because I'm not letting myself pull with those lower abdominals. I'm keeping it nice and tight. Now we progress to the bridge position. So my shoulders and my wrists are in line, my hips and my knees are in line, and it's a very simple little movement like you were laying on your back on the floor. You're just pulling your hips up underneath and back down. So you're not necessarily arching your back, but you're pulling with those lower abdominal muscles enough that you just feel that in there. This next move is your progression. So I'm keeping that same position. Imagine if I had a little a little object on my lower back, right where that gray band is at. I'm trying not to let that move. So I have to stop and reposition myself so that I don't drop my hips, I don't sway my back, I don't let there be a little sway because those hips have dropped. So every once in a while you see me stop, readjust, make sure my back is nice and flat, and I'm just reaching back. So we'll talk about reps in the next video. But I want to finish up just by showing you some progressions that you can do. So building off of that first one, I'm not doing all the way up, all the way down motions. That's really pulling on those lower abdominal muscles. But I can do a lot of things from the crunching position. So you don't see me extend all the way up. My knees are going to stay bent the whole time, and this is called the modified version. So it's just a crunching motion, and really this is just hitting those upper abdominal muscles so that I'm still strengthening everything in between. I'm still thinking about keeping those lower abdominals nice and tight, my rib cage nice and expanded, and if ever that starts to fail, then I stop and I reset. So it's just small motions. And you can do side to side, you can do across your body. And I'm going to finish here with some bicycles and show you how you can continue those big movements, but just modifying. And if you still feel it pulling at all, then you need to stop that motion, back it up with some of those previous exercises, and then go from there.
So if you work with a physical therapist, they will probably prescribe to you this number of sets and number of reps. And if you have access to that, please go consult them. But if you don't, or you're like me and you want to research and you want to try these things on your own, totally give it a try. So what I personally did is I do everything for 10 reps. But I set my timer and I do it for 10 minutes a day. I find personally that if I'm prescribed 4 sets of 10, I will rush through it so that I am done instead of slowing down, thinking about the form, thinking about doing it right. So if I know that I'm gonna do it for 10 minutes regardless, I'll do 10 reps. Don't care how fast they go because I'm doing it for 10 minutes. Then I'll slow down and really think about my form. So again, thinking about keeping those the ribs nice and wide, thinking about keeping that lower area tucked down and nice and tight. Form is incredibly important. Please, as you're doing this, listen to your body, listen to what it's telling you to do. Slow down, modify it as you need to. I personally didn't notice it as much when I was up and doing big exercises. I noticed it when I was doing ab type exercises laying on the floor. So you can do just about almost every movement modified with those knees bent, like I said. So modify, give it time, be patient, and it will heal with some attention.